Hey, little mama, Alan and Eris. You know what? I wanted to do a devotional on Easter and continue off of where we left off from yesterday, but I left my notes at home. So I had this devotional that I prepared last week that I wanted to go over with you, and you could see I'm not in my office, so I don't have all my normal elements that I usually have. So bear with me here. But this devotional I wanted to do on money. Okay. Now, as always, we start off with a definition of money, but money is a noun. It is the coins and bills that people use to buy things, either goods or services, right? Now we want to tie it back to biblical scripture. In Ecclesiastes 5:10, it says, "Who loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. This too is meaningless." How true is that? How many times have you seen out there in the world, and you could probably think of people that you even know, that though they have money, it's never quite enough, right? If you think about it this way, I love you guys, right? I thoroughly enjoy spending time with you guys, right? Do we ever feel like it's enough time? I don't. Elena, I could think of the past, 5 or 6 times you've been over, 5 or 6 weekends you've been over. Come Sunday, when it's time to go, you're like, oh, I don't want to go, right? You're having such a good time. Um, and it seems like you always want more time, right? Well, if you love money that way, doesn't it make sense that that's how people who love money would behave? It's never enough. When is it enough? When are you placated? When are you satiated? When are you satisfied? Right? It's a funny thing with money, is that is no matter how much you fill your pockets, you still have an empty vest in your hole, in your heart rather. Okay. Matthew 6:24. You cannot serve both God and money. Think about that. Think about that. Think of it on a small term. We go to church on Sundays, right? Well, Sundays, if you work an hourly wage, you tend to get time and a half, right? So you get 1.5 times your normal earning potential. So if you make $10 an hour on Sundays, you'll typically make $15 an hour. It's 1.5 times your earning, right? Well, to the average person, you might think, hey, that's 50% more of my income. I'm going to work on Sundays. And now all of a sudden you're not respecting the Lord's day. You're not respecting the time at church because you want to go and make that money. You're serving the money and you're not serving God. All right? And I'm sure you can spin off and think of several other different ways that money will come in between you and your worship of the Lord. Right? Luke 12:33. Sell your possessions and give to the poor. Provide purses for yourselves that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will not be exhausted, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. This is talking about what do thieves typically steal? Things of value, right? Or value itself, money. Those are the things they try to take from other folks. And what do moths destroy? Clothing, garments, right? You think of rich people, you think of really nice dresses for the women, though nowadays that's kind of a blurry line too. But you might think of really nice suits for the men. Well, moths destroy clothing, right? They wait, they find out which one is your favorite sweater, and then they chew it apart. So that's why in this verse they're talking about heaven. Store your treasures in heaven. That can't be stolen from you. Jesus died for us to have that privilege, the privilege or the benefit of heaven, right? So that's where you store your treasures. Romans 13:8. Let no debt remain outstanding, except the continuing debt to love one another. For he who loves his fellow man has fulfilled the law. Right? Jesus says, above all this, love one another. And what did Jesus do above everything else? He loved people. Right? The woman at the well. She had multiple husbands. Go forth and sin no more. Right? He loved people. He treated people with a kind hand. except for the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the ones who were blasphemous, and they were using God's name in harsh terms to impose their will, their own personal agenda on people. But Jesus loved people. That's what he did. 1 Timothy 6:10, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Right now, all of a sudden, you don't have your confidant anymore, your confidant anymore. You can't give all your worries to Jesus because now they're unbiblical, right? See, you and I, all of us, we can give our concerns to God because they're godly concerns. Lord, help us to sustain this home that you provided for us. Lord, help us to better love one another. Lord, take this grief from my heart. Bear it for your own, right? How do you pray to God and say, Lord, let me make more money? Right? So they pierce themselves with many griefs. They have to take those afflictions themselves. Hebrews 13:5. Keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, never will I leave you and never will I forsake you. What more do you need? Right? I mean, I know that we all have our fleshy moments where we're like, man, you guys witnessed it this weekend when that 1953 Volkswagen Bug drove by, and I was like, oh, right? Okay. That was my flesh moment, right? But I'm good. I'm good, right? I went away for a second, but then I came back. I realized that my treasure is in heaven. No matter what life hands me here on earth, my treasure is in heaven. And one of the things that I really love most is that you all will be with me because you have the same belief. Right? That's what's amazing. The problem with money is it seems like, and I don't know if it's just my lifetime, so I say recently, but this, people beyond my generations might have said this in their lifetime, but it seems like we have gotten to the point where we value money and use people. And it really ought to be the other way around. You got to value people and use money. One of our favorite things that we like to do, I don't know if you noticed this, is that we like to go and eat, right? We go spend time with one another around the dinner table, and we eat together, we feast, right? And Jesus says, I sit at the door of your heart and knock. And he wants to come in and break bread with us. He wants to enjoy a feast. And that's what we're going to do in heaven, is we're going to feast. At least that's my idea of heaven, right? We get to eat a lot. I imagine there's going to be some good cooking up there. And God willing, I'll be doing a lot of it. But that's where God's time also comes into play. You ever notice some of the favorite times that we spend together is sitting around the dinner table up to an hour and a half after we've already finished eating, and we're just talking. We're just fellowshipping with one another. We're loving one another. We use the money to provide the meal, but we value one another. We value the conversations, right? And that's really what Jesus wants us to take from life. That's what God put us here for, is to worship him, to glorify him, but to love one another. One of the biggest things that I enjoy is when I see you guys love one another. When I see Alan open Elena's door without hesitating. When I see Bebo holding the door open for his mommy and for his sissy. Those are the things that send my heart into a frenzy, right? Because you guys are brother and sisters. And that's Bebo's mommy, and that's your mom, and you guys take care of each other. Well, God is no different. We are all his kids. And when he sees us love one another, it's the same enjoyment that I get to see when I see my kids love one another. So you remember that. You use money and you value people. Okay? I love you all. I hope you enjoyed this, and I can't wait to see you again next time. God bless you. Bye-bye.